Dallas Jenkins, in this podcast, as he's out promoting his new Christmas film, he kind of talks a little bit about the jealousy that can come in indie filmmakers' success. So talks about his own experiences, feeling jealous, feeling envious, and having to wrestle with his own appreciation for his own work, and to trust that if he keeps going, he will eventually make it and have his own version of success, which we have seen. He's like the Christian filmmaker right now. He's like the hottest thing in the Christian filmmaking space. But let's take a listen to what he had to say in this conversation, and we'll talk through it.
Happy for other filmmakers? Feel in your entire career happy for other filmmakers in the faith space when they succeed? Because I sometimes am really happy, and other times now in the last 7-8 years after I gave up all my narcissism and materialism, I've been genuinely happy, but I wasn't always. Sometimes I would get a little jealous. Have you ever struggled with that? Or
this is like such a valid conversation, because this translates to other, not just filmmakers, it translates to YouTube as well. So for people like me, I have 100% felt this. And if you're not careful, if you are not careful, the jealousy and self-doubt, negative self-talk that can lead from opening yourself up to that is so incredibly corrosive that you can literally get to the point where you're like, man, I'm a horrible filmmaker, not just because I can't get people to watch my film or people can't find it. I don't know how to market it well, but also like people's better at lighting. Like their picture is better than mine. They had access to a better camera and they got to shoot in 6K, and I only shot in like, ultra HD. And there's so many aspects that you could just get so incredibly jealous and so incredibly just self-pity in this process that it's so incredibly relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
You and John both, and Kevin Downs, your producing partner, have certainly displayed a genuine enthusiasm for other filmmakers, and I've always been impressed by that. But it's
and he's right. The antidote to the jealousy is enthusiasm. I think when you actually just decide to push through any negative thought that might be coming in your mind, or like just the feeling of self-doubt, which quickly leads to jealousy, if you could just push through that and instead focus on enthusiasm and excitement and encouragement and celebration for someone who really pops off and is having their day in the sun, like that's a beautiful thing. And that's a real antidote. Let's keep going.
It's not been easy for me.
It's been, it's both and, I think the human part of me, that this job requires navigating a massive amount of insecurity, because you're putting things out there.
that close-up cut back when he says insecurity, he's looking right into it and he does a little swallow. It's like a visual version of insecurity.
That you think you're right, but you don't know, and it's so subjective that there is a massive amount. And so and then there also is this frustration of feeling like you've earned your moment and the moment hasn't come yet. So I think the places where I felt the most jealousy in my career were prior to, I can only imagine, when I was like, man, I'm waiting for my moment, and I feel like Woodlawn was the one that deserved it and it didn't get it. And then I see, I struggle with jealousy that right after Woodlawn, Alex had War Room that just blew up and exploded. But there's a humbling that comes in that kind of carving out the narcissism. I still battle it. I think there's always an element like,
especially for people who are Christians, like this comes very easily by accident. And he's saying, yeah, there's a constant battle, because it's like, hey, we got to acknowledge the fact that like this jealous negativity that can creep in, especially when you've done like for me, 6 films. The most any of my films has ever gotten views wise on YouTube is 500. I've put it together a YouTube video that has like no editing and hardly any effort, and it gets more views than any of my films have. And that's really incredibly disheartening because it's like this piece of work that I'm so incredibly proud of is not working. And I do it over and over and over and over again, and it's not breaking through. And that's incredibly wind out of your sails kind of situation. The ship's just sitting there in the ocean. Like you got nothing. And you're just trying to be like, all right, bring out the paddles. Let's keep going. And meanwhile, people are just soaring by you. And you're like, why can't I have some of that wind? We wrestle with the flesh constantly to battle this idea of jealousy. Let's see if he talks about it all, the antidote.
Because it never really happens where you're winning at the same time usually. Yeah. And so this job comes in seasons. So there's seasons where it lulls off and then somebody else is getting their moment.
Unless you're Barbie and Oppenheimer. They had their moment right at the same time.
But I think what I respect that is the genuine part is I respect quality. I feel like our space deserves it. I think there's been so much stuff that's been lazy in the years building up to where we're at that whenever there's something that's quality, I'll be a fan of quality every day of the week.
He's saying some real important stuff in the Christian indie film market. Yikes. He's so right. The quality has been suffering for decades. And all of a sudden, you got people like the Kendrick brothers that did movies out of their church. Now, granted, there's some cheesy stuff in there, but they actually had quality and actually like, hey, this is different than other Christian movies we've seen. Then you have years later, movies like shows like The Chosen coming out. And you're like, this is not just high quality. This is a timepiece. Like this is Jesus's story. This is Jerusalem. This is Bethlehem. These are costumes. You know what I mean? Like this is a whole new environment that it's hard to create. And they just basically were like, look, let's do what we can do and let's scale from here. And that's the beautiful thing, I think, on some level of a show is you can start in a humble place. And if there's belief, you're building motivation, you're building momentum. If there's motivation to keep going, you just keep working upwards. And so with films, you don't always have that. It's kind of like, let's just do it. And if it doesn't work, then we're done. Whereas a show, test the waters, be humble. If there's hope, you can keep going. But again, there's also risk to that. It's going to have to be alternative forms of humble beginnings, either your own money or an investor, because most of the time, any like established investment in indie market films or shows, they don't invest in shows. They only invest in films.
So
yeah, that's really good.
So that's where I kind of land. What about you?
Yeah, I've struggled with it, and it tends to be a little bit based on if I've predicted a certain outcome, I tend to be biased towards rooting for that outcome, even if I predicted that something wouldn't go too well. Yep. So I remember predicting. I remember when Woodlawn came out, I didn't think, like I had a sense of like, I don't think this is going to be as big as it seems like it's intending to be or hoping to be. And whereas I thought, I can only imagine, and I tend to be fairly good at predicting audience reaction, especially in our space. And
you get good at that by trial and error, by doing stuff, seeing how it goes, by looking at other people's examples and being close to them, seeing them launch and seeing how far it goes. That's how you learn to build that skill that he's talking about.
So I remember when Woodlawn, it just came out with such a, I don't know, like not a presumption, but it was presented as though this was big. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to be. So I found myself kind of instinctively kind of not rooting for, but like hope.
Yeah. I told you so.
Like, I mean, that's a little strong, but there was a little bit of that. And
he's trying so hard to be very genuine here without being offensive to the Kingdom Story Company guy. And I told you so. It's funny to see him present this, because if you look back on The Chosen, you see season 1, they had no idea where it was going. Absolutely no idea how big it was going to be. They had ambitions and a vision to reach a goal without any strong indication that it was going to reach that goal. All they could do is try to be like, we're going to tell the story of Jesus and his followers, and we are going to try to make it the most interesting story possible in the writing, because there's like not a ton of ability to do a lot of action, to do like a lot of effects. There's one documentary or behind the scenes documentary video where they talked about how just the one scene where there's fish in the nets, when when Jesus says follow me, or put the nets in the water and a bunch of fish come in from season 1, there was a ton of anxiety around that, because all those fish had to be animated, and that was like the big shot that had to look good to really sell this moment for the show. Everyone felt like it was a make or break moment for The Chosen as an established show. Like, we can build a set and have good lighting and have good depth of field and make it look cinematic. But like, if we can't make the fish look right, then how are we going to tell a narrative visual story if you're not even convinced by the image? And so on some level, they started The Chosen having no idea where it was going to go or what it had potential to be. And I think on some levels, Dallas applies that same thought process to other films that he sees happening.
And I was like, well, that's awful, because I'm friends with Kevin Downs, and I love him. And I didn't know you guys at the time. But I'm like, I started checking myself, going like, man, no, that's not a great feeling. Yeah. And I just thought of that when you were asking the question, because I'm like, I haven't always been the greatest champion for people. And I've tried to be more in the last 5-6 years.
All right, we'll stop it there. Go check out the Kingdom Story Company interview with Dallas Jenkins if you want to watch the full thing. Came out about 3 weeks ago. So looking at this, like the whole idea of him battling jealousy, the constant narrative of jealousy in the indie film market space, this also translates to the YouTube space, I'm noticing, with creators. Like, it translates to so many areas of life, but I'm going to talk about what I know, which is kind of like the indie film kind of / YouTube space jealousy, the content creation jealousy, the success jealousy that you see over and over and over again. And how does it affect filmmakers? On the very broad area of how it affects filmmakers is burnout, is lack of motivation. Jealousy can corrode one's spirit to reach the point of wanting to quit or just quitting. And the crazy thing is, I saw this one video of this poor fella who he puts his films out on YouTube. He's got about 8,000 subscribers. He's really passionate about it. He's done quite a few films that he's put out there for free. He really believes in it. And then he had some issues the past year. He put out this video. He cries in it even. And he talks about how he's just lost all motivation because everything seems to be in his way to just do the thing that makes his heart sing, which is make films, to tell stories, to to create the visual action, motion picture narrative of a story that he wants to tell. And that there's so much that lends itself to that. There's so many speed bumps in their way, which I think the world and the creative market should actively be trying to find solutions to get those speed bumps out of the way. But a big part that can destroy motivation and destroy the drive to do the thing that makes you so incredibly excited and scared and thrilled But at the end of the day, at the end of the project, to feel like you've actually accomplished something like you've never experienced in your entire life is jealousy. Like that is going to be the number one killer of any kind of motivation is jealousy. It's to compare yourself to other people who are doing something similar, seeing them have success, not understand why they are having success, and to start feeling bad about yourself and even angry at them and angry at the people who watched their film who didn't watch yours. You look at the comments and you start trolling because you're like, this wasn't that good of a film. And it's all built out of this toxic anger that starts with jealousy and insecurity. And it's corrosive. And I think the best way to find a solution to this is to start building a community of independent filmmakers online, a community of people who care about creating content on YouTube, telling stories, documentaries, films. Build a community of people that are truly creatives, that aren't necessarily just kind of like the casual YouTubers from a webcam kind of situation who just, I don't know, game or whatever. Nothing against that. It's just a different type of creator. But people who are actually creating like cinematic stuff or even just doing YouTube videos that are cinematically motivated, that really care about the creative process of crafting a video or a film. We have to build a community, a connection group, a cross-promotion group, and understand that when one person succeeds, that is also our success. And when we succeed, it is all of their success. It's the same thing that they're talking about here in this video, that they're talking about the independent Christian film market, where they have seen just low quality and just failure after failure after failure for decades, and just disappointing, cringy Christian films, when they know that Christians should be the most creative people on the planet, like we should be, because we're in a close relationship with the creator of the universe. So why shouldn't we be the most creative people ever? And I think a big part of that is it's almost blasphemous for Christians to put something together that's really horrible and call it Christian, call it great, because it seems delusional. And they're saying it's taken so long to get to a point where there's actually quality and stuff that looks good, is telling a good story, that's not just tolerable, but enjoyable and actually really exciting. And when they see that, yes, they deal with jealousy over the independent success of other filmmakers. However, if you build a community of people that are like-minded, same motivation, are crowded around the idea that we love filmmaking and we love being independently filmmaking, then everybody's success is yours. And I think that's a valuable perspective to take. I think it creates a lot of excitement. When I go online and I see a YouTube video from 9 months ago that is a short film that somebody uploaded and it has 500,000 views, yes, it worked, right? Or when I see a short film that has 1.5 million views and it was uploaded 1.5 years ago, it's like, yes, it worked. Their success is proof of concept for us, for everybody in the indie filmmaking sector. Going all the way back to earlier in the live stream, the Hollywood system wants to pit filmmakers and creatives against each other. The entire Hollywood, LA, everything is fighting for attention, pitting each other against one another to seek attention and to seek the job and to seek the payday, to seek the big break. And what I'm saying is that is a corrosive system. It leads to what they're talking about, jealousy rather than celebration. And I say we don't need any of it. We don't need any of that incredibly toxic system to be happy and to do what we want to do. We shouldn't be a part of it. Festivals do the same thing. They make you compete for attention. So you're literally hoping that other people's films are poorly shot, are cheesy, don't land, because you paid money and you have money invested in them failing and you being on top. And what I'm saying is that's corrosive. We shouldn't be a part of it. We need to fundamentally revolutionize the creative independent film market. And when we do that, everyone succeeds from top to bottom, from someone coming out of high school who has a dream to be a filmmaker and actually can make it, because people who figured out and were a part of the revolution online in the indie filmmaking storytelling space are able to grab their hand and say, this is the path. This is how you do it. And it's a lot easier than it used to be, because they used to make us battle it out in the square. They used to make each other's, blood, sweat, and tears over a film just to be stepped on by some executive with all the money, and for everyone to just beg like peasants to get the attention of the person with all the money. And I say, screw that. It doesn't cost as much money as it used to get film equipment and tell a story. You can do it yourself. You be disciplined, you get the equipment, you can fund it yourself. There's a lot of people that are looking to act. If they do like stage acting all year long as a hobby, and they would love to spend a few Saturdays shooting a film for free because it's exciting. It's what makes their heart sing. And when they see that there's a successful short film that got 25,000 views on YouTube, and that's the most viewed thing that you've ever had, anyone has ever seen of your work, then all of a sudden everybody's happy. And if it can convert to you building an audience of loyal fans that can offer you money in the future for either projects you work on or you have a Patreon, everything should be self-funded through the viewers who actually love you and are fans and are loyal to you, not the people at the top who are just looking down their nose at you and expecting you to literally sacrifice yourself to put a little bit of extra cash in their pocket. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you're inspired, or if you completely disagree with me, let me know. I'd love to hear that story too.